Hi all! Everything in my video is pulled from the public domain, and I am using them under the Fair Use, Fair Dealings guidelines. Everything I say is my own opinion. You should look into this information for yourselves, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Morning, everyone. Yes, all three animals together. Shocking, I know. So I grabbed the camera and snapped this quick photo. All right, you guys, you know we have a lot to cover. Let's just go. Let's go. Start off again with Camilla. We're going to talk about the fact that she has been working with charities for years. And that's one of the reasons why the Queen did her, made her queen consort, okay? She's very focused on children's literacy, on dogs, on animals, on horses. And the Queen actually grew very fond of her, where she said it was her express wish that Camilla would one day become known as the Queen Consort. And it was her hard work that got her there, and her love, of course, of the king. Next up, King Charles and Camilla took a well-deserved break at the Aberdeenshire estate. Now, when they're there, they stay at Burke Hall on the Balmoral estate. And Charles and Camilla aren't moving into, I call it the big house. Burke Hall is what Charles and Camilla consider to be their marital home. It's where they got engaged in 2005. It's where they honeymooned in 2005. Yeah, good for them. They deserve a break. Now, next up, a blind item came out. You know how much I love those blind items. Now, what it's saying is that Harry admitted that he'd been isolated from many of his long-term friends because Meghan didn't like them. Now, remember, in the Netflix documentary, Meghan said it wasn't her fault that he lost his friends. But according to this blind item, it very, very well be her fault. All right, moving on. All right, next up, I have an update for you. Now, remember I told you yesterday that Nelson Mandela's granddaughter came out and said, and she was quoted in saying that neither Harry nor Meghan ever properly met Nelson Mandela. They're using quotes in the documentary to draw people in. Now, here's the kicker part: to make millions without the Mandela family benefiting. Those are the key words. And then she says, and I know that our foundation has supported the initiative, but people have stolen my grandfather's quotes for years and have used his legacy because his name sells, and Harry and Meghan are no different. That's what she said. Remember, even the grandson came out and slammed Meghan for comparing the reaction of the African people from her wedding to how they felt when Nelson Mandela was released from prison. Now, here's the interesting part. The same granddaughter is now saying that she's not sure why people are making a mountain out of a molehill. And after Harry and Meghan released that project Live to Lead that bombed so badly because really nothing was going on, they're saying that this woman is claiming now that she never criticized them for the use of the grandfather in the opening of the show. She says, I've watched the first 2 episodes, and I don't find anything wrong with them using that opening thing inspirational with a quote of Granddad. What that tells me is that they made their money. The money was handed over. And so now that her complaint was that Harry and Meghan were making money off the grandfather and they've handed the money over, now the granddaughter no longer has any complaints. It's all shady behind the scenes. In my humble opinion, of course. All right, here we go into the meat. Harry and Meghan have been told they're not going to get an apology. And why should they? They're talking about privacy, and yet they're releasing the private information of their family members without permission. I don't think they care about that. And Harry was asked about that in one of those promos that was put out. Listen to what he said.
Some people will say you have railed against invasions of your privacy all your life. But the accusation will be, here are you invading the privacy of your most nearest and dearest without permission. That'll be the accusation.
That would be the accusation from the people that don't understand or don't want to believe that my family have been briefing the press.
So essentially what he's saying is, yeah, I'm breaching their privacy, but it's really their fault because they keep briefing the press. And yet he's never shown any proof that his family is doing that. I'm telling you, this guy needs some serious psychological help. All right, the next thing we're going to cover really quick, it's being reported that Penguin Random House has to sell more than 1.7 million copies of this book in order to call it a quote-unquote bestseller. And that's why they've now cut it down to half price. In some places, it's listed for £1. On some places, you can get it for free. They literally just have to get it out. Because if they don't get it out, they can't call it a bestseller. And now, of course, we know that while Harry may be making money, his reputation is down the toilet. And it's being reported that Random Penguin House is not happy with Harry and Meghan at all. Okay, when that guy Jeremy Clarkson wrote that article about them and then the Sun apologized, apparently they were told to ignore it. Now, this is because, this is according to Neil Sean, it would have faded away very quickly. But of course, Harry and Meghan couldn't let it go and they had to retort, and so it kept going. See, the problem is they need favorable reviews. And now the Sun, the Times, the Wall Street Journal, Fox News, Fox Business, and people in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, that they're all clumping together, that Harry and Meghan writing back and basically, saying horrible things about the Sun was a big mistake because now they don't think they're going to get good reviews on the book. I agree. They should have kept their mouths shut. Well, yeah, Penguin Random House is going to be markled. And I have to agree with what he said also. He said, for free speech, when they want to talk about their family members and they want to talk about other things, then it's free speech. But if somebody says something about them that they don't like in their world, then they rush to put out statements condemning people for the things that they said. Anybody else notice that? Way to go, Neil Sean. All right, moving on. All right, this is just a statement I saw, but it so struck me. Harry wants a family, but not a monarchy. He wants a family. Well, he could start by giving up his titles, but he wants titles for his kids also. He blames his family for leaks and ghosting, but I think we've proven that his wife is a master leaker, and he accepts no responsibility for their situation. Exactly. And I couldn't help but notice what this person wrote also. Thomas Markle put out the same statement. He's tried privately and publicly to resolve his issues and get his family back. And instead, Harry sits on TV saying that Meghan doesn't have a father anymore. And they have ghosted Thomas Markle and they're silent. Remember, silence is betrayal. Now remember, there's security around this book. And yet, artful leaks have come out. Interesting, isn't it? And one of the leaks and one of the things in the book is Harry accuses William of attacking him. He says they were standing in the kitchen and William was screaming at him and he pushed him backwards and he slammed into the floor and he landed on the dog bowl, which then shattered. Okay. Says that he grabbed me by the collar. He ripped my necklace. Now, Harry says he had a visible injury to his back, and I wonder if there's a picture of it. They took pictures of everything else. Now, keep in mind, William supposedly told Harry that Meghan was rude and abrasive. That took place after the Queen pulled her aside and said, we don't talk to staff that way. After Catherine pulled Meghan aside and said, we don't talk to staff that way. After the temper tantrums that she threw. After supposedly making Catherine cry at the dress fitting. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did grab him and throw him to the ground. So what? They're brothers. Brothers fight if it took place. Brothers fight. What happened to military Harry? 2 tours in Afghanistan. He's whining like a little kid. Like, what the hell? Now, let me just say that Harry is the one known for having a bad temper. We've seen multiple photos of him throwing punches at the paparazzi and having to be restrained. So if any punches were thrown, or maybe Harry threw the first punch, I totally would believe that. Surely a detail like that would be worth the $100 million payday from Netflix, not just $20 million from Penguin Random House. How come that was left out of the Netflix documentary? I mean, does anybody else find that odd that they didn't put any of that in the Netflix documentary and suddenly it was leaked? It was leaked out that in the book it says that William attacked him. Well, then here's a picture from the Netflix documentary. Those are metal dishes. And that photo supposedly is from before the fight. Now, in the book, Harry's also claiming right after the fight, he had to call his therapist before he called Meghan because he was so upset. So let me get this straight. You and your brother have a fist fight and you can call your therapist, but when your wife is pregnant and threatens suicide, you didn't know what to do and you didn't call anybody? Does anybody really believe this? I wonder what the Sussex squad makes of that. Maybe he wanted to be a victim if she offed herself. Horrible. Now, of course, the memes are coming out. The broken necklace was enough for him to call the therapist. We know this, right? Did you see the necklaces? I don't know about this one, but this one is the one that I'm voting for. Yeah. Well, I guess it could have been this one too. I could totally see Meghan putting her initial around Harry's neck. How about this one from the body language guy? Now, we know that Harry's never been able to shake off the whole Nazi uniform thing. Now Harry's claiming that William and Catherine made him or told him to wear that costume. You guys, I swear. Do you really believe that? I've never seen anybody try to throw his bad behavior onto other people like Harry's doing. I mean, my God. In the article, one of the excerpts, he said that he was stuck between a pilot or the Nazi uniform. And so he asked Will and Catherine what to do, and they told him to choose the Nazi uniform. And Harry said that William laughed at him when he saw him dressed up in it. However, let's not forget that when this happened, Harry was in his 20s. He was a legal adult. He made a decision. William didn't force him into the Nazi uniform. But instead, he's going to say, well, it was William's fault. William and Catherine told me I should do that. But you didn't have to do it, Harry. This is what I'm talking about. He takes what am I trying to say? He doesn't take responsibility for anything. Well, you're probably wondering, how did everybody get these excerpts? Well, first of all, the book went on sale early in Spain. It wasn't supposed to go on sale for a certain amount of time, but no, it was released in Spain several days earlier. Then you have to question, how did The Guardian get the book 6 days early? Well, that was an easy one to answer also. Apparently, one of the people at The Guardian is good friends with, drumroll, James Holt. Go figure. Now, some more information came out about what happened during the dress fitting. Now, remember, supposedly, Catherine is the one who cried. Then Meghan went on Oprah and gave a completely different story and said she cried because they had a fight about the bridesmaid dresses. Now, remember, Catherine had just given birth to Prince Louis a month before the wedding. And so when Meghan looked at her and said, you must have baby brain, she became offended and got upset. That's probably what made her cry. Can you imagine? She doesn't know Catherine. She's not close to Catherine, and she insults Catherine that way. So apparently, when she got home and she was crying, William went to take up for her. So after upsetting Catherine and making her cry, so now we know that what Meghan said on the Oprah show was false. Harry wrote that Meghan made the comment, and after upsetting Kate, Meghan apologized and insisted that's how she speaks to her friends. So now we know for sure that Meghan lied during the Oprah show. So it was at that point, according to the book, allegedly, that William pointed a finger at Meghan and said, it's rude, Meghan. That's not how things are done here. And Meghan looked up and goes, well, if you don't mind, keep your finger out of my face. Yeah, that sounds more like what probably happened. Now, for those of you who thought that he might leave Camilla alone, there you go. He has attacked Camilla. He claims that he and William begged Charles not to marry her. That's not what he has said previously. And now comes the big kachanga. Yes, he now claims that Camilla is the one who's leaking the stories and launched the campaign to marry Charles only because she wants to be queen, not because she cares about him. Wow. Now, I have to say, look at this picture. Look at the difference from left to right. I have to say that he even leaked it, that Charles pleaded to the two of them at Prince Philip's funeral, please don't make my final years a misery, because he saw what Harry and Meghan did to the Queen during her final years. Okay? Let it sink in now that Harry stooped and revealed a private remark from Charles, who was grieving the death of his father. Well, so now, guys, the story is changing. Every time they open their mouths, it's a different story. I wonder if everybody notices that. Harry so badly wants you guys to see him as a victim. At what point? This is like written by, it's hard to remember that this was written by a 30-something-year-old, not a 12-year-old. You know, Valentine Lowe and Tom Bauer's book, as far as I can tell, weren't mentioned either. I guess if they just ignore it, it goes away. They never sued over it either. But now Tom Bauer's book has been updated, and they're claiming that Prince William ordered that jet to leave because Meghan Markle wanted on the jet. William was like, bye-bye. I don't blame him. Now, you should know that Harry gave another interview to Good Morning America, except this time he didn't go to Gayle King. He went to somebody else. And he continues to spew stuff. You guys, it's all lies. Now, here's something interesting that he said during the Tom Bradbury interview. Listen to this.
If you're invited to the coronation, will you come?
There's a lot that can happen between now and then. But, you know, the door is always open. The ball is in their court. There's a lot to be discussed, and I really hope that they are willing to sit down and talk about it.
So there you go. Prince Charles has an out to not having Harry and Meghan at his coronation. The royal family, has to be willing to sit down and have a talk with them. And we all know what they want. They want their half in, half out life. They didn't get it, and that's why this is happening. But the royal family should keep up with the don't complain, don't explain. And therefore, they won't show up to the coronation if they keep their word, of course. You should also know that during this interview, he basically says or insinuates that that William was jealous of Harry. So I have to agree with what Cameron Walker says here. Harry is basically just full of rage. There's no proof to anything he says. He's claiming that William later apologized, but that doesn't change the fact that William attacked him. I don't believe it, and unless William comes out and says it, then I think it's just another lie. He's not exactly known for being truthful. That's his problem. Their no complain, don't explain is working. They're more popular than they ever were, where Harry and Meghan's popularity in the UK has tanked, and in the United States, it's dropping. Unbelievable. The fact that Harry released what Prince Charles said, a very personal, private moment by a loving father who had just lost his own father. The fact that Harry thought that was appropriate to release it tells you all you need to know. Palate cleanser! Oh my God. You guys, is it just me, or does Prince Harry look weaker in every interview? Like he's constantly looking for that reconciliation that's just out of his grasp and he can't figure out why. Does anybody else notice that, or is it just me? All right. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that bell. If you've already hit the button, don't forget to double check and make sure you're still subscribed. Leave those comments below. You know I'm reading every single one. Don't forget to click into the description box for the links to my Twitter, my Getter, my Rumble, my email, my Patreon. As always, you guys, have a great day. I don't know what else to say. Have a great day.